online and on the go. This is Valley News Live at 5:30.
The officers were, rocks were being thrown at them, slingshots with rocks, some asphalt, some water bottles, some burning logs and that type of thing, which just all ups our stance as far as the protection of the officers and everybody involved.
The Dakota Access Pipeline is about 85% constructed, and the only remaining work to be completed in North Dakota is the section under Lake Oahe. Good evening, and thank you for joining us tonight. After an intense clash on Highway 1806 overnight, tensions over the pipeline remain high. At a news conference today, the Morton County Sheriff's Department discussed the altercations that began last night and carried over into the early morning. The Standing Rock Sioux Tribal Chair has come out saying law enforcement continues to engage in unlawful and also dehumanizing tactics, also referring to them using water cannons. Now today, the Morton County Sheriff's Office confirmed that water cannons were not used Sunday night, but they did use hoses from fire trucks to put out fires and used water mist to repel protesters.
No, we don't have water cannons. I don't know where the term water cannon comes from. This is just a fire hose, and basically the fire trucks were called down there because of the fires that were started before and the numerous fires that were occurring during the time that these activities were coming on. As a result of that, some of the water was used to repel some of the protest activities that were occurring, and it was used at a time to where they were aggressive towards the officers, and when that was no longer occurring, the water wasn't used anymore.
Now, the Dakota Access Pipeline protest has gained nationwide attention, with some protesters targeting the media, that including Valley News Live. Our Ashley Bishop has been investigating the calls and reasons behind protesters' actions. Ashley, what can you tell us?
Social media websites like Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram have helped share the events taking place out west. And now a campaign has begun to target media organizations that protesters feel are being biased towards them. Lists like this one, telling people to call different North Dakota agencies, have been spreading on social media, along with lists targeting the media. Here's how it works. Activists call a television station and ask why reporters aren't covering the pipeline protest. Many admit they've been told to call us from a list. Today in our newsroom, we got calls from more than 24 people from states like New Jersey, Florida, Texas, California, and Colorado. One social justice warrior agreed to do an interview.
What it is like is essentially, I guess, somebody trying to bring the people's voice out a little more. So like what we're doing is essentially calling news stations to just simply ask if they're covering it, and if not, we ask why.
Abreu says he has no connection to Standing Rock, but claims he is fighting for human rights. He says protesters are being mistreated. I asked him about the protesters being aggressive and breaking the law.
I would say then that would just be more of a natural reaction is what it seems more to me, because from what I was seeing was just they were being aggressive first. The police actually came in aggressive.
Another protester I spoke with said he was calling from California, and calling because local news organizations are not airing what he claims are assaults by police. Others calling, accusing that we are only working for the oil company. Ashley Bishop, Valley News Live.
Our sister station in Bismarck had about 50 protesters outside of their station today. They were reportedly chanting, and one person was later arrested. Tune in tonight on Point of View with Chris Berg. Chris has an exclusive interview with the CEO of Energy Transfer Partners, Kelsey Warren, who has been accused of environmental racism by activists for rerouting the pipeline from north of Bismarck. He says the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers rerouted the pipeline, not his company. Let's listen.
Well, that's stupid. That's how I respond to her. That's just stupid. We pipeliners don't, race doesn't come into play for pipeliners and infrastructure providers.
And tonight on Valley News Live at 6, the Dakota Access Pipeline protests are starting to impact your children's education. Hear from students of a music teacher who is headed to the protest on behalf of the National Guard and how they say he's been a positive influence in their lives. Well, nothing eventful so far today, but things look like they might be changing later tonight. Let's get the latest from Robert Hahn in First Weather. Robert?
Yeah, today so far a quiet and cool day out there, albeit a bit breezy. Those breezes will continue with us as we head through tonight. Some cold temperatures ranging from the upper 20s to the mid 30s, and we're going to see temperatures in the upper 20s to right around 30 as we head through the overnight hours. The wind will continue out of the southeast, 10 to 20 miles per hour with some occasional stronger gusts. A lot of clouds out there, and they'll continue to thicken on up as we head through this evening. Underneath those clouds, radar showing a lot of precipitation. However, the vast majority of us not reaching the ground. The atmosphere very dry at the surface. It's going to take a while for it to saturate, but when it does, we'll start to see some freezing rain and some snow, some sleet, and maybe some plain old rain in a few spots. We have a freezing rain advisory overnight tonight into tomorrow morning for a few of our counties. The rest of us, most of us, in a winter weather advisory beginning tonight. That through Wednesday morning. How much snow can you expect? How much ice can you expect in your backyard? We'll let you know the answers to those questions coming up in just a few minutes.
Thanks, Robert. Well, no arrests have been made yet in a home invasion in Moorhead on Sunday afternoon. Around 4 o'clock, police responded to the 3409 15th Street address on a report that a neighbor saw 4 black males force their way into a home. Police tell us today that the homeowners were home during the burglary, and reports of there being a weapon involved in the case are still being investigated. Police also say this was not a random act and that the suspect and the victim knew each other. Tune in tonight to Valley News Live at 9 and 10 at 10. We'll dig into whether crime in Moorhead is on the upswing. Well, a Minnesota man is dead after an apparent rollover crash involving a deer in Polk County last night. It happened here in the Brant Township area on Polk County Road 23. Police say 42-year-old Jason Johnson of East Grand Forks hit a deer, went into the ditch, and then rolled his vehicle. Johnson was thrown from the car and died at the scene. 25-year-old Armando Zavala of Fargo was facing DUI, hit and run, and fleeing charges after police say they saw him hit 2 parked cars early this morning near 15th Street and 25th Avenue South in Fargo. Officers tried to pull Zavala over, but they say he would not stop. They got his license plate and arrested him later at his home. It was a long-awaited acknowledgement and apology from the killer of Jacob Wetterling to the boy's parents. Confessed killer Danny Heinrich addressed Patty and Jerry Wetterling personally this morning, saying his heinous acts and selfishness are unforgivable and that he is sorry. Heinrich had remained stoic for most of today's proceedings, but wiped his eyes as both Patty Wetterling and Jacob's little sister gave their witness impact statements. Jacob's father, Jerry, thanked police and even Heinrich himself for allowing the family to know what happened the night of October 22nd, 1989. Heinrich was also in court on an unrelated case of child pornography for which he was sentenced to 20 years in prison. As a part of that plea deal, he showed authorities where Wetterling's body was buried. The Grand Forks Airport Authority has landed a nearly $3 million settlement after FedEx recently moved its air cargo operation from Grand Forks to Fargo. Meanwhile, Fargo is giving FedEx a $600,000 tax break. The director of the Grand Forks Airport Authority says in so many words, the loss of FedEx was a bit of a blow, but it's not the end of the world. The Airport Authority has received a $2.75 million settlement from FedEx because FedEx got out of its lease for this facility a little bit early.
I think we grew together with them and would rather that they be here. But we're moving forward, and this was a fair agreement that we were able to come to.
The $2.75 million settlement gives Grand Forks $900,000 to pay off bonds on the building it owns. Plus, they can set aside $1.8 million to replace the $700,000 a year loss of income from FedEx as they shop for a new tenant. The approaching holidays are often known as the season for giving. And today, people who work at Luther Family Ford gave their time and efforts to make Thanksgiving a little better for people who can use a helping hand. They packed boxes full of Thanksgiving food, everything needed to prepare a traditional Thanksgiving meal for families in need. And when the boxes are all set to go, they are also helping to make sure the special holiday gifts get where they need to go. The Salvation Army's Major Byron Medlock says there is something special about preparing and sharing a Thanksgiving meal in your own home.
A couple of people who ran up, and I was locking up for the day, and they were so worried that they were going to miss the Thanksgiving basket. And I said, no, you haven't missed it. You just come down to the Army and we'll get you filled out. But other than that, they're all excited about getting the baskets.
Medlock says plans are in the works for Christmas meals as well. So if you're in need, you have until next Tuesday, a week from tomorrow, to sign up. No concert at the Fargo Dome today. Instead, we're stages, miles of cables, and a bunch of food. The plan is to fill the dome with it. Students from not only the FM metro area schools, but also from much of eastern North Dakota and western Minnesota are truly paying it forward. They've been busy collecting food and money to help people who can use an extra hand, particularly at this special time of year. They're aiming to top last year's totals of nearly $30,000 and 22,000 pounds of food. The Fill the Dome project is in its 10th year, and the food collected and the money raised goes to the Great Plains Food Bank. If your iPhone 6s has been shutting down for no apparent reason, there's a way to fix it. That's still ahead tonight.
Today, a quiet day, but as we head through tonight, Tuesday night, and into Wednesday morning, the weather, in a word, will be sloppy. Your forecast details on that sloppy forecast coming up right after this.